touching upon our panel discussion points, Saudi venturing in space, and I mean, looking at the investment landscape and space in general. I'll start with you, Mr. Fahad, with regards to looking at the, I would say, the landscape of investment in space and why now?
Thank you. We are one of the early investors in the space in the kingdom, and we've been surprised for many people that they would think since 2012 we early investor in big companies like SpaceX and Axiom and others. And usually this is not the case when it comes to investor. Usually they want to stick to the ground and not go up high. But we managed to have enough crazy people to invest with us, and this has happened to really increase as we go. And it's really part of the diversification and more of trust in the space industry that happened especially recently. So we see a really great interest. We see now that more sophisticated investors coming to the space as the industry mature, and we're really excited about what's coming in Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Fahad. Mr. Walid, if you could shed some light on the potential of space, and I would say in terms of how attractive it will be in the next few years.
Great. So we're an early stage investor based here in Riyadh, and our mandate is general, sector agnostic. We're a generalist, so we can invest in any sector, whether it's space or not. So when we think about space, it's only because we see lots of potential and upside today. The timing is now correct for space, and that's why we've been engaging with the space community in Saudi and outside to see what kind of opportunities lay there for local content in the space market. Our fund has like I said, from pre-seed to Series A. So for us, we also engage even before founders decide that they want to build their startups. It's important for us to build connections with the communities that have interest in space one way or another, whether it's communication, Earth observation, or anything else. And that relationship can start even from the lab.
Absolutely. Mr. Mohammed, if you can shed some light on the, I would say, you can't hear me?
Yeah, it's a bit muffled.
Sorry, so my question is, can you shed some light on the, I would say, the potential of space in general, and why would you say space is attractive business?
Well, thanks so much for hosting me.
Of course, yeah, of
really
course.
Appreciate it, and thanks for the audience that are with us here. But I've got a confession to make.
Please.
My exposure to space was when I first started my Sulaf Solutions, a startup in Silicon Valley. And there was an incubator for space by NASA next to Cisco. And I convinced them I was related to space because they had the cheapest rate and ran in it. So at one point I was counted as a space, but we did cloud as a service. Look, in all honesty, the fact that we're sitting here on a panel around space in Saudi Arabia is a testament to the direction and the attention the space is getting. And to me, this is a sovereign goal, right? It has to start from sovereign goal, it has to start from government, because these areas, the barrier of entry is massive. We can't, somebody has to press a button and say, we want to be relevant in the next race on space. And that's how things start, and that's how NASA started. We want to put a man on the moon in the 60s, and it was a race, and a lot of it was of sovereign/military use, and that's okay. I mean, that was the internet. The internet was ARPANET, decentralized command center, etc. So it's really driven by a sovereign goal that trickles down eventually into it. So we'll ride with you guys as you develop and allow us the opportunity to develop, and maybe we'll talk about in later questions, when and how would NAMA invest in space?
I'm coming to this, Mr. Mohammed, but I mean, you touched upon a very important point when it comes to the barriers of entry, especially when we're talking about startups with limited resources. And you mentioned a very important thing when it comes to the governmental support and subsidization. What would you say are, I mean, from a VC perspective, what would you say the the most important building blocks that the startups would leverage on to venture into space and create this investment opportunities, and we'll get that. Yeah.
So, the best thing you can do to a startup, post getting a check from Nama,
Of course.
is acquire what they're selling, consume their product, right? So we need to, in order to invest in these startups, know for a fact that there's somebody willing to de-risk them and write and underline that check, right? And when you talk about these spaces, I almost want to say in the US there's an organization called the SMB, which is the Small and Medium Business Administration.
Yeah.
The Small and Medium Business Administration in the
It's
US,
similar to Munshaat, I guess, no?
like Munshaat.
Yeah.
Here we call them SMEs, they call them SMBs.
Yeah.
They mandate on the US government, which is the biggest consumer in the world, there's nobody that buys more than us, that if you don't buy 23% of what you consume, you get punished, right? So as the sovereign goal is identified, whether it's commercial or military, it's going to trickle down to opportunities. Help us by starting from the problem, the commitment to willing to write a check for the problem. We'll find the geeks from within to go after these problems. So, because at the end of the day, the three gentlemen here have taken money and have been entrusted in people that we're going to take this real and make it 10.
Absolutely.
Right? And if we don't think that these startups can have their products be consumed, so they're valued at 100, so our portion of it is 10, we cannot invest in this space.
Indeed.
And I'll allow space for my colleagues, but to elaborate.
The space is all yours, Mr. Walid.
I agree with Mohammed 100%. You know, what technology did, and let me be very specific, what software did recently is it ate the world, and including space. Software is eating the space. What this means is technology being democratized. So you don't need as much capital and labs and everything else just to get into that market. It's very democratized. So supply of space tech can happen very quickly in Saudi Arabia. The real challenge is going to be in the demand side. How do we create the awareness with big customers? Government has to be the biggest one, but what about Al-Mara'i? What about big mega projects in the construction and so on that actually think about things that could be benefiting from space tech? The second part would be actually to encourage venues like these where we can build up communities. I was talking to Andrew. Andrew is a Russian living in GCC, and he was telling me about the things that he was doing inside Saudi, talking with Aramco, getting a Saudi co-founder for a startup coming from outside. This is something that we really need to accelerate and support as much as possible. So from the top down, we need demand generation. Bottom up, we need to enable and stimulate the communities that will actually provide that supply.
Absolutely.